Happy Sunday evening, almost Monday morning. Today is Sunday, November 6th. This is an impromptu stream. Wasn't really planning on doing one tonight, but the whole James Gunn thing came up. And after a full day of just hearing everybody else's voice, I just decided I felt like adding my own. Um, some of the stuff I've heard has been pragmatic. Some of the stuff I've heard has been the usual bullshit from the usual suspects, trying to read way too much into what he tweeted. So like I said, I think I'm going to stay consistent. I think as somebody who prefers these DC brand of storytelling, that we're in a good place. And today's tweet response from James Gunn didn't change my feeling about that. So let me go ahead and say hi to whoever you insomniacs are right now. Hey, well, it's not really late for you, Anthony Grisby. How you doing? Kinky Sphincter, how you guys how you doing? Michelle, hi, how you doing? Aaron Pritchard, good to see you again. Kevin O Dog Hair, okay, cool. I love that. Superboy, how are you doing? Michelle again, and Anthony. Okay, so woke up to this morning. As I said, I woke up pretty late this morning because it's Sunday and we did a stream for 4 hours last night. The woke up to James Gunn tweeting the response. Obviously, yesterday was the hashtag release the air cut movement. Got over like 200, maybe 250,000 hashtag responses to it. Not a Twitter guy, so if I'm using the wrong terminology, let me know. And I've always said from the start, listen, I'll support it. I think I did my little hashtag thing yesterday, but I thought that the odds of air cut ever seeing the light of day were slim because there's no business reason for it to exist. And I'm not saying anything against David Ayer. I'm not, knocking it or any way, shape, or form. I don't mind seeing it. But when you're talking about laying down money, there was just everybody can tell me how passionate they are about it and why emotionally they want to see it, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you go into the corner office or where the secretary is a six-figure employee, where there was a lot of money being thrown around and leveraged, you now have to present a business reason to go back to a movie that, for all intents and purposes, was a financial success for them and spend money on it when you are never going to release it in theaters because there's no place for it. Continuity wise, there's no place for it unless you are going to establish certain hallmarks of what Zack Snyder put out. And even if you were for it, you would be basically shoehorning that version onto the map of two new guys that just got there this week. To be 100% honest, I mean, if it pops up HBO Max or in theater, I'll support it. I'll watch it. Who knows? We might even promote it. But I always was worried about this being equated to the release of Snyder Cut movie, because with Zack Snyder's Justice League, the difference is it was the cog of their universe. And the entire universe was disrupted and with no good plan in place due to mismanagement. And they attempted to go forward with a bunch of stuff that was not the Trinity, that was not the story that they started. It was the universe. You literally shut down the universe and tried to replace it with C and D junk, and it didn't work. And that's why, in good part, why those guys are gone. But with David Ayer, I mean, the problem, Suicide Squad, it wasn't the cog of the DC universe. Stopping that or altering that did not alter the entirety of the universe like putting out a shitty Justice League did. That Justice League movie pretty much put everything to a halt. So you have to present a business reason to release the Ayer cut. And no one has ever been able to bring me one. They want to see the director's vision, and that's fine. I mean, but at the same time, if you're just going to release it on HBO Max and it's not going to tie into anything, unless you are establishing what Justice League is your continuity. So if you say Zack Snyder's Justice League is your continuity, now the Ayer cut makes sense because you're giving more time to develop Joker, Harley Quinn, things like that. But we don't know what continuity they're going to be using. We don't know if they are using elements of Zack Snyder stuff, when they will ever use them, what the intervals will be. We don't know any of that. So you're pushing for a movie that just really doesn't have a place right now. Zack Snyder's Justice League had a place. So there's no equal footing on either of those. Like I said, I'm not against the Ayer cut movement. I just think you have a gun, and you only have a limited amount of bullets in your gun. You have to be very careful where you aim your weapon and where you use those bullets, because once those bullets are gone, that's out. And that when we do these movements, I think we can do so many movements to where they don't become important anymore. I didn't, the release of Snyder Cut thing was a huge valuable movement. But if we continue to do these movements for things that are not going to shake the entirety of the universe, pretty soon it becomes white noise to executives. Pretty soon something's going to come down the line where we're going to need to band together, and it's going to matter. I mean, it's going to be on a larger scale, but we will have done so many hashtag release this, release that, release this, that we will become white noise, and we'll become the kids that cried wolf. So use those golden bullets on the most important things. And when you try to equate the Ayer cut to Zack Snyder's Justice League, there's just no comparison. And I think that, and people were trying to do it at the same time that we were running the release of Snyder Cut movement. And I felt that, okay, one thing at a time. Pick a purpose, pick a goal, and stick to that goal. Trying to put all these other things on it, I think kind of slowed things down. And I think it's become to the point where people are just going to ignore these movements now. So we got to be really careful. All right. So, oops. All right. My husband and I were talking about this from a financial perspective, and it doesn't make sense to release Ayer cut when it doesn't branch off and doesn't mess with time. Yeah, it just doesn't. Unless you were going to establish that it does, then that's one thing. But if it doesn't, then you're gonna have some issues. So let me go ahead and bring up what I woke up to this morning when it comes to James Gunn's tweets. All right, so James Gunn acknowledges fans' movements in the statement, promising DC's biggest story ever told across film and TV. All right, James Gunn has shared some thoughts on the direction of DC Studios less than 2 weeks after being selected alongside Peter Savran as Banner's first ever co-chairman and chief executive officers. Taking to Twitter, the film director and newly minted exec acknowledged recent online fan movements and teased the biggest story ever told from DC across film and television. Opened up Twitter at the end of a long creative weekend to see many tweets to hashtag save Legends of Tomorrow. Okay, there's another one. I'm sorry, we just didn't need that. To release the Ayer cut and fan support for other DC projects over the years. The majority of these requests were enthusiastic and respectful. Gunn wrote. By the way, that I believe that to be true. It's always cool for some content creators and some people on Twitter to put in their headlines things that trigger the extremists and then use them as the news. But once again, they never ask me. They never ask guys like me. They never ask people that I interact with on a daily basis. They get the terrorist. They get the people that are, doing stupid stuff, making threats and just spamming people. They get those guys because, like I said, the plane landing safely is not news. The plane crashing into the runway is news. So I love the fact that he at least continues to say that. It's important we acknowledge you, the fans, and let you know that we hear your different desires as the pathways forward for DC. All right, so then he goes down to let me go to where he was at, where he says, here we go. We're just going to go ahead and open the thing up. Hate bringing up Twitter on my feed, but make sure that we got that. So yeah, let's go ahead and stop the screen, and we're going to go ahead. Wow, StreamYard does not make this easy anymore. All right, Chrome tab and Twitter and all right, so we're going to go ahead and read this. I won't read some of the responses are going to be goofy, but all right, enthusiastic and respectful. And okay, so he has it broken up into several tweets. As the new and first ever CEOs of DC Studios, Peter and I think it's important we acknowledge you, the fans, and let you know that we hear you and your different desires for passports forward for DC. Although our ability to interact on Twitter has been lessened due to the workload of our new positions, we are listening and open to everything as we embark on this journey, and will continue to do so for the next few years. But all of our initial focus is on the story going forward, hammering out the new DCU and telling the biggest stories ever told across multiple films, television show, and animated series. We invite all of DC fandom from across the multiverse and everyone else as well into this new universe. We can't wait to reveal more. All right. To me, all day long. Hold on. That's pretty much what it says. See, StreamYard's screwing with me, but that's pretty much what it says. Obviously, there are some responses in there. Some of them are good. So most of the people that I read, for the most part, were happy that for the first time we had a DC head that was communicating with the fans, and that's one of the most important things that I thought that the previous regime dropped the ball on a lot of the time, and I've always said this, where information is lacking, people fill in the cracks with bullshit. All right. Not only have they filled in the cracks with bullshit, they've made an industry and a living off of that bullshit. They've made a living in the industry. They've made money off of people's anxieties and people's desires by making stupid thumbnails and triggering people that knowing what kind of response they're going to get from them. But I've always said that if you had a DC PAO, which is a public affairs officer, that's what we called it in the Army, a public affairs executive, or the actual studio head himself. Now we don't need that because we have James Gunn actually telling you, what to expect would go next. That would have saved us a lot of problems. And listen, you're not always going to get what you want. You're not always going to get the people telling you what they want, what you want to hear all the time. But like Roosevelt said, back in the 30s and 40s, the American people can handle tough news as long as you give it to them straight. And if you are bringing me along the way and keeping me informed, and we don't have these gaps in times, and we don't have these months long before we ever hear anybody, it's a lot easier to go along with you. And the problem before is the previous execs didn't do that. And then we had scoopers filling in the blanks. We had pundits filling in the blanks. We had everybody except for the people that were inside those offices filling in the blanks. So I am happy to at least have somebody getting up and acknowledging that, what, we just want to hear a little bit every now and then. Now, what does it mean? I get the questions and stuff all day today. So many people I talk to, people took that as, well, he just said that's the end of the Snyderverse. Every time somebody comes up with a comment or a tweet doesn't mean the end of anything. All right. And that's that sensationalistic bullshit that is just, like I said, that I've seen so many guys just, attract so many followers, or gals try to attract so many followers with, I would rather stay with 10 followers for the rest of my YouTube career than do that. All right. It doesn't mean anything like that. What he's basically saying, this is how I read it. Let us get in the goddamn office. All right. Give these guys, and this is what I was worried about before. We can't have these guys trying to fight 2013 to 16, 2017's wars. Okay. And I, as a fan and a fan of Snyder's stuff, am not going to wage a war from 2013 and 2017. I'm just not. All right. There is nothing to gain from that. They know the desires there. The content is there. The actors, they're there. They've kept them. And we're going forward. If all he's telling me today is that we're moving forward and telling a big, large story, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. The consequences of having poor leadership prior to them is the fact that we won't get the exact things that we really wanted for a long time. But at the same time, those guys are gone. All right. The damage they did is done. They are gone. They are no one that made those mistakes. Hell, some of the guys who made some of the movies that are coming out are no longer even with the company. So I see it as, okay, same thing as it was on the day one. I'm still waiting for you to come out with some announcements and get me excited about what we got going forward. That's all I saw it as. You know, now, does it mean that you will never see Ader? No. Does it mean that you will never see elements of Zack Snyder's story arc? Does not mean that at all. It just means that you have to give a brand new creative team time and space to lay out their map. And if you do that, if you're patient enough, who knows what you'll get. Some of the stuff that we're waiting on is the most logical end to even a new path. So a lot of it is just us waiting and see what this guy has. I'm happy that just there's a guy or guys with a plan. I'm happy that there's people in place that are prioritizing the big red S and the bat and the golden lasso and the fishman instead of starting with B and C characters. All right. I always said that one of Black Adam's biggest uphill battles that it was Black Adam. In my opinion, there should not even have been a Black Adam movie before a Superman movie. There should not have been this Suicide Squad movie before Superman or Batman was in place. There shouldn't have been concept of any of this mess that they had going forward. None of that should have even been on the table. And if you had a good exec in there, if you had a Zaslav in there at the time, or you had these two in the time, when somebody comes in there with their little their little folder with this script and these ideas in it, it's like on those shows where you see it flying out of the door and you see the person who handed it in flying it out right after that. That's what you needed. You needed somebody to say no to all this stuff. And because it hurt the brand. It hurt the brand. And it hurt the brand to the point where we're going to be looking at, the box offices for these movies and calling them disasters and everything else. And realizing that that's not how they're seeing it. They're seeing it as Black Adam. That money was gone. All right. Warner Brothers Discovery is going to end 2022 in debt, and it's going to spend most of 2023 in debt because they merged with a company that had that much debt. They borrowed money to buy the debt from Warner Brothers. So until they get that worked down, Black Adam could have made $1 billion. All it would have done is created bragging rights and some champagne being popped. But the company's still going to be in the red because you bought a devalued company that had debt. So their decision making going forward was based on rebuilding brand loyalty. Putting Cavill Superman in there wasn't about trying to push Black Adam over the $1 billion mark. It was about getting that brand distinction out there and going from there. And that's what they did. So, but like I said, what you have to do is give them the space to do this. We waited, if you've been here from the beginning, from 2013 till now, we gave bad management a lot longer, than the 4 months that Zaslav's had and the 2 damn weeks that these two have had. So I read into the day is like, okay, what's next? Start getting to the specifics. Now, the greatest story ever told, or the biggest story of all time, spread across different mediums. A lot of people think that that's copying Marvel. I'm a little bit of a skeptic of that because I don't listen. If I want to watch Marvel, I'll watch Marvel. I will plop down my money for tickets to see a Marvel product. When I plop down my money for a DC product, I want to see a DC product. They are not the same. So if you want to handle the business structure and connect things in a connected universe, that's good. The structure is fine. I don't want to see Marvel content on my DC screen. I have Marvel for that. So a lot of people were thinking along those lines because he bought up animation. And like I said, right now, animation is a non-starter for David Zaslav because it doesn't make any money. But now, if you start connecting it with things that matter, now that animation matters. So let me go ahead and jump in here real quick because I'm pretty sure that okay, Colonizer Jeebus, how you doing? How you doing, fun? Yeah, we finally have some people that have that are sitting because, and like I said, long before we knew that James Gunn and Peter Safran were going to be the heads of DC Films or DC Studios, they were already in those positions. Us finding out about stuff is not when stuff happens. Zaslav didn't wake up one day and say, "Hey, you guys want these jobs? Okay, we're going to announce it tomorrow." No, there were weeks and weeks and weeks, and possibly months. Because when we found out Dan Lin wasn't taking the job, or then that was probably weeks and probably months before we got that news. So this has been in the works for a while. But as far as like the actual wheels getting greased on, the last 2 weeks are very important because now it's out there. Now we're responding to it. I have seen mostly positive responses to it. I think we're in a good place. I think we're going to get wowed. My only request is give me something different than what Marvel is giving me. Give me something I can actually, for the most part, enjoy. Like I said, half of the MCU stuff I just don't have any regard for. And if I would have known in hindsight that most of these movies weren't going to matter in the long term for the content that I was in the MCU stuff for, then I would have not even paid money to see them. You know, it's just half of them are not my cup of tea. I mean, Captain Marvel, I could have seen, especially with Disney Plus. If Disney Plus would have been around at the height of the MCU when they were putting out their movies, some of those movies I would have waited. I'll wait the 45-day window for Captain Marvel. I would have waited the 45 a day window for Guardians of the Galaxy 2 because I didn't think the movie was that good. And me clicking the X on my home, computer screen or my big screen over here is a lot of a different of an investment than me going down, driving across town, buying a ticket, sitting in the movie, sitting through a half-hour previews for a movie that I just didn't really enjoy. All four Thor movies were straight to home releases for me. So I don't want to see. I want to see the size of the story that you're telling over there because I think DC is better suited for it and has villains that are better suited for it. I just don't want to see an exact copy, and I have faith in James Gunn being different than that. So, how you doing, Turin Prima? All right, Kinky Speaker, we finally got competent people in charge, and I'm grateful for that. Yes, a cohesive world plan. Remember how and if you watch me anywhere, you know how I feel about standalone shit. Right? It's fun. I'm glad it's out there. But we had people at one time thinking that DC should just do standalones and forget about the shared universe. And my mind is, are you out of your fucking mind? Why don't you just set money on fire? Because that's what you'd be doing. All right. As great as the Batman was, it was not enough to propel anything but another Batman film or the Batman film that we're going to get in 3 years. So, congratulations. 2025 is when you're getting the next Batman movie. That is not enough to sustain a universe. All right. And even several standalone movies. Well, let's do the Joker did well. That's the way to go. No, it's not. Joker did 1 billion, half of which DC Film Studios didn't even get. And now we're talking about a sequel that another 2 years now. You cannot sustain and drive the type of revenue that these studios want with standalone movies. And you cannot create the brand loyalty that is necessary to generate that type of revenue with standalone movies. So every time I would hear somebody say that, I'm like, are you crazy? Do you need to go back to the math class, to the remedial class? Do you need to take a business for dummies course? Because you're basically telling that corporation to waste time and to waste money and to do it over a long time. Because these guys who direct these movies are directing other things and it takes time. So no way. You must have a shared universe, even if you have the standalone stuff on the side. The shared universe is your main generator. It is your main revenue generator, and that's not a Marvel copy. That is the comic book way. DC created the shared universe along with the superhero and the superhero team and everything else. So that's not a Marvel thing. That is a comic book thing. All right. So because when I step out of a movie, when I stepped out of Black Adam, that was the first time that I stepped out of a DC movie anticipating what was next and being able to discuss what is next. And that is what the momentum you need. That momentum and anticipation is what makes you money when you're talking about these things. So yeah, cohesive world. Finally, I'm happy to see it. All right, Michelle. I think we'll get a DC different universe. I think we'll finally get a whole continuity timeline now from them being co-chairs. I think they're going to fix. And yes, me too. And like I said, their hands are clean from a lot of the mishaps and stupidity that happened with Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. They can come in with a fresh perspective, and they're not going to be the previous regime mess things up so bad that they didn't want to touch those characters again. They had made those characters so toxic because of their mishandling of them that they couldn't do anything else with them. This group does not have such baggage, so I'm ready for it. All right, I'm glad Superboy. I'm glad DC got their own studio and got somebody like James Gunn to make a plan. Yeah, and that's another thing. The studio thing, and in defense of the previous regime, and I don't defend them very often, they did not have the backing of being their own studio and having to answer directly to Zaslav, mainly because AT&T didn't give a rat's ass, and the other people that were in between them were not the right people. All right, they weren't bad people. Walter Amada is not a bad person. I don't know Walter Amada from Adam. Toby Emmerich, never met him before. These aren't bad people. They just weren't the right people for this mission. All right, Michelle O'Rourke Johansson. Yes, I think it's what they'll do and try to keep fans connected. Yeah, and like I said, what he did today was a big step in the right direction because he's being forthcoming. He's being transparent. He's not letting us hang out in the wind. And I think with Gunn doing that and engaging us on that level, he can shut down a lot of these guys who have made it their life's goal to raise the blood pressure of people who are a fan of certain fandoms. When somebody comes out and says something stupid, and here's here I have a scoop, or he can if he sees that trending, if he's paying attention, he can come in and shut that shit right down. Right, the horse's mouth can pretty much shut down all that stuff. And what I like about this is that a lot of this garbage won't get momentum when you hear it from him. If we're hearing, well, we're never going to get this, we're never going to get that, and I heard James Gunn says it, and then James Gunn says you're full of shit, shut up, which is basically what he's done in certain cases. And he's done it to high level people too. High people who have hundreds and thousands and of followers. He pretty much told them to go fuck themselves, which I think is great because you can't have pundits and even people like me dictating the course of your studio. You have to do that. All right, and that's what the problem with the previous regime didn't have. Bullshit artists dictated the course in the momentum of DC's films. Now it's the guy who actually has his name on the project. James Gunn and Peter Safran's names are going to be on every single thing that DC produces now. And if you're hearing it from them, half of these guys can pretty much go away. All right, the rumor mill, all this stuff, because all it does is create bad will. All it does is create bad will, and it gives people an end to turn people against each other, certain parts of a fandom against each other. And then they can point and say, "Oh, look at that guy! Look at how he responded to that. He's whining, he's crying, he's toxic." Like I always said, you go in the forest kicking in the bushes for a bear, and when that bear comes out and swats the shit out of you, and then you're a victim, But like I said, James Gunn today is starting to curb that just with what he did today. He's not always going to tell us stuff we want to hear because we have desires and wants and everything else, but he's going to tell us what he knows. He's listening to us. We know that. And he's going to keep us up to date. That's all I want. I am not the storyteller. I know how I would do the DCEU, but I'm not in that corner office. I'm okay with being a customer right now. All right, Buddy Love, you think Patty Jenkins will be back for her last Wonder Woman? I don't know. I did not enjoy Wonder Woman 84. I thought Wonder Woman 84 did damage to the character of Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. I know everybody has a bad day at the office, and even with a lot of trilogies, there's usually one that's not as good as the other. But Wonder Woman 82 to me had an effect of just, it showed you the direction that the previous regime wanted to take those characters in. And I saw enough to know that I don't need anybody who worked on that, other than Gal Gadot to be involved again. I know Patty Jenkins is a brilliant director, but at the same time, I heard the last thing I saw her do is something that I thought was more damaging than just a bad movie. So I would like personally for them to go forward with someone else. But, like I said, if they came out and said Patty Jenkins is your director, I'm like, okay, is there a mandate of what type of Wonder Woman we want to see? Because the Wonder Woman we saw in 1984, I thought damaged the brand of Wonder Woman. All right. Yeah, Legends of Tomorrow. You can tweet, and you can tweet that all the way to the gallows. That show and any of the CW shows. No, 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 no. All right, question, Marcus Cruz. When you're king of Atlantis, the seven seas, and underwater, you can practically do anything. You can flood the whole world. Yeah, you might. We might be 4 days away from seeing a Atlantean / whatever the hell they're calling them now, flooding the whole world. All right. William, you'll be proud of me tonight. My husband showed me a promo of Malachi Black tonight on his return to ATW, and I fell in love with the pagan aspects of the promo. Yeah, Malachi, I do. You know what? The only thing that bothers me is those contacts he uses. I hate having anything on my eyeball, and he has like one blue eye. But yeah, Malachi Black, I'm glad that they re-signed him because he was up in limbo for a while. I'm sorry to know that a lot of people love the Joker movie, but that wasn't a DC film. That was a nod to overwhelming film mental instability. What the Joker was basically a reflection of the mental health system and how it can collapse and how people that are in that health system can have everything that's supporting them fall apart and they have nowhere to go. If you look at the Joker, I thought the Joker was a brilliant movie because it showed you that everything that happened to that guy wasn't his fault. And people like that fall through the cracks. They lost the funding for his meds, everything. And it was a snowball. The end result that was the Joker was a culmination of a lot of things that a lot of people around him could have fixed. He became the product of his environment and his own mental illness, which I thought was tragic because, not everybody, is going to have a movie about them made like that, but that's a mental health situation. That's a mental health problem today. That's a mental health problem 40 years ago when that movie took place, and it's a sad situation. We always want to react to the end result when somebody does something awful because of mental illness or when they commit suicide or anything else, but we don't want to do all the things in between to possibly prevent that. And the Joker to me was emblematic of that whole deal, and I felt that movie. All right, so all right, extremely bad. Patty seems like a director that needs a good producer to help her. Yeah, I think Patty Jenkins, and like I said, I think Patty Jenkins needs an executive producer. Like I said, her best stuff, in my opinion, in superhero realm was with the stuff that was executive produced by Zack Snyder, or a screenplay and a good script. So I can't put it all on her, but like I said, all the negatives I have about the movies that came out in that era were byproducts of a bad management who could not fully embrace what it meant to be DC Comics. They never had a grasp. At no point did any of the previous executives did I feel that they had a grasp on what DC really is. And now we have that. I damn sure know that James Gunn knows what DC is. Peter Safran has been in the game with DC for quite a while. So I have people, but I never got that feeling, and it rots from the top down. If the executives don't have a grip on the IP, and they're going to employ people who write scripts and write screenplays that don't have a grip on the IP, and so you hand that over to a director and a producer. Sometimes you get as much as you put in, and the previous regime didn't put in the necessary ingredients to come out with like Black Adam is a perfect example. As much fun as I had with Black Adam, it could have been a whole lot better. It could have been a whole lot better. It could have been a better editing movie. It could have been a better story. It could have been a better script. It could have been better screenplay. It could have been better everything. But we got what we got because the prior people did not have that grip focus on DC, what it means to be DC. And we were talking today. I was talking to my buddy at the store today. Is if the new guys would have been in place 2 years ago, we're talking about an entire differently DC right now. I don't think you get the Black Adam. I said this last night on our show. I think you get an entirely superior Black Adam movie if James Gunn and Peter Safran were the heads of DC Films at that point. But because we had what we had, we got what we got. So, hey, Griggs, did you see any of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I was having. I did not see it. I was surprised. I keep forgetting Eminem is up there in age, man. He's been around forever, but um, I never get a chance to catch the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame live. Who are the other inductees? Because I know it was tonight, right? Yeah, because I was out all day, but yeah, Eminem. I like Eminem. I think Eminem is very powerful performer. All right, so yeah, so here you go. All right, Kinky. Yeah, that too. And once again, Jeff Johns is a person. If he's in his role and he has oversight, is a good storyteller. I don't like what he's done with DC Comics. To be honest with you, I think some of the major overarching storylines and reboots that he's done has hurt comic sales to this day. I always hear people say, "Oh, I love the New 52. Rebirth is great." It doesn't reflect in the numbers. All right, it does not reflect in the numbers. Some of the most devalued comics out there are New 52 and Flashpoint and Rebirth. All right, those comics don't hold any real value unless you're in a market that just never got them. I can get any of those comics I want to without, and they can get them for cheaper, less than value. And they saturated the market with stuff that Jeff Johns did, and it hurt. I hope now that they have gotten the film division, going in the direction that they want to. They take a look at the comic book division and really, really save it, because right now, other than DC Black Label, it's not, most of the stuff's just not very good. And this is coming from a guy who sells it. All right, and it's just not very good. Marvel's not doing too much better outside of maybe some of the X-Men stuff. Some of that stuff. We're getting back to the late '90s and 2000s where we don't have much of a direction. So I'm hoping that DC, um, he appoints somebody or he drives down a mission, because all this has a potential to be connected. DC Films and DC Comics themselves has a potential to be a juggernaut on that we haven't seen in a while. All right, so how you doing, Cisco? All right, agrees. Didn't see who the others were, but I thought his was all okay. Cool, yeah. I'll have to watch it on the news. All right, whoever Gunn chooses as writer director of Man of Steel will be a telling sign. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I that's a fair statement. That's a more than fair statement. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to see this new direction. Just because, like I said, I think a lot of people think that just because a lot of us were in love with what Zack Snyder did, that we're unwilling to be open to what else someone else can do, which is BS. Because we most of the people I know, including myself, have gone to all these movies. All right, we've gone to all the movies from 2017 on. You've had your one percenters maybe that have boycotted it, but the vast majority of us have gone and seen these movies. So we were always open. What was been mistaken is because you guys, that previous regime didn't resolve a massive storyline and left a big hole in the franchise. We're not the bad guys who did that. They did that. So that doesn't mean we weren't open to these other things. We're just waiting on the end of what you sold us. And like I said, when you hear me say restore the Snyderverse, it's not even restore the Snyderverse. I don't use that hashtag. All right, mine is hashtag resolve the Snyderverse, hashtag in the storyline, because whenever you start people on a massive story and you don't finish, your credibility comes into question, and people will find it a lot easier to give up on you or never give you a chance to begin with, because you know they're afraid of investing their time and their money and their spirit in something just to be held, left holding the bag with nothing in it, no ending. So that hurt the brand. And it's probably going to continue to have an effect on the brand going forward, even with Peter Safran and James Gunn at the head. The brand is still going to continue to absorb damage from what happened before, because even though these guys are brand new, they're not part of the filth that happened before. People are still going to have that legitimate question in their head: should I get on this boat with you? Should I start this journey with you? Should I give you my time? Should I give you my money again? When I gave you my money in the previous years, I ended up with nothing in return. I ended up with a story with no ending. That is a legitimate question for every DC movie fan, even now with the new regime in control, because we haven't seen them roll out anything yet. So finishing that storyline would go a long way to, not just pleasing a certain sect of fans, but having something in your trophy case. I started it. Here's the middle, and here's the end. And even a general fan who is not a Snyder geek or not a comic book geek or not a full wearing a Shazam shirt everywhere, even the general fan knows when they've been left holding the bag. They won't make a lot of noise on Twitter and YouTube. They just leave. They just don't come back. And that's even worse. All right. Todd Fair, Black Adam was not a flop. Oh, where's Todd Fair? Dude, this is welcome to my stream. I've been on other streams where you're at. I mean, on Enoch's stream, but I've never had you on mine. All right, Black Adam was a flop. Thank God Wakanda will come together to give comic movies the boost we need. All right, so a flop is something that loses money. All right, so there's a difference between something not being the greatest movie box office all the way and then being a flop. Black Adam's production budget was anywhere between 165 million to 200 million. Let's say 200 million. And I know that the ad budget was 100 million or less. So 300 million. So right now it's sitting at 319 million. That's not a great profit, but a flop is when you lose money. All right. Now, also, in order for us to determine whether any movie anywhere is a flop, the goalposts are not for fans to determine. The goalposts are not for YouTubers and Twitter heads and pundits to determine. The goalposts are determined by the people who actually have their money down on the table. All right. And for all things considered, everything that DC, we just finished discussing the damage that's been done to the brand. Not having Superman on a proper base screen for 5 years, all this mishmash of movies and dumb ideas that got greenlit, movies that should have been made, all this damage to the brand. Well, all things, you did not give any DC movie that was going to get released the oxygen it was going to need. So all things considered, if they're not going to lose money on it, and I keep hearing 600 million to 650 million, it would have been great if Black Adam would have gotten that. Wonderful, and I'm pretty sure, like we said before, they would be happy with that. That is not what this movie needs to break even. All right, I just gave you what it cost to make the movie. That includes all the percentages and everything else. So right now it's at 319. Don't know if it's going to get a China release. If it does, that could push it into the $400 million mark. 450 is probably where that movie would need to be to make, to be something feasible. But you have to understand that they're not looking at it in those regards because it wasn't their movie. They inherited Black Adam. They inherited Black Adam, and Warner Brothers Discovery is going to wrap up the year in debt. So Black Adam could have come out and made a 1.5 billion. It's not going to mean shit to the bottom line coming into the year. All right, all they're going to do is write off the losses, and they spent some extra money on the ad budget that we benefit from at the end because you know what? They get to write that off and advertise. They're going to get a huge tax break at the end of this year, and the quarterly earnings are going to be bad for the next couple of months, or the next 18 months. It's just going to be bad. You mean you can blame it on the guys who drove down a $74 billion company to a $43 billion company? So when people are determining whether something is a success or a failure or one way or another, remember, our opinions don't mean shit, ultimately. A YouTuber's opinion, a pundit's opinion, a columnist's opinion, a critic's opinion, when it comes to, when these circumstances and that type of success, our opinions, mine included, don't mean shit. All right. We're all pressed up against the window on the corner office trying to listen to a conversation that we'll never hear. We don't know what the inherited film's goals were for Black Adam. We don't know the realities that they accepted, knowing that they were walking into a pile of shit that was left behind from them from a previous company. We don't know that. So for us to determine what is successful, it's not our money. It's not our company. You're going by standards that don't have anything to do with these guys that just came in and really don't have anything to do with this movie because, once again, they didn't greenlight this movie. There's a good chance that this movie doesn't even get made if Zaslav's in charge. So when it comes to flops and all that, and I'm not pointing out Todd here, but I hear a lot of people who just aren't qualified to determine shit, saying shit. As far as God Wakanda Forever is coming to give comic movies a boost we need. Here's the thing. I also heard, it better. It is a movie that is supported by 30 movies and 12 years of storytelling. Black Panther didn't do it on its own. No Marvel movie reached the height that it did on its own. Every single Marvel movie that came out is literally a walking, breathing commercial for the next Marvel movie that's coming out. So Black Panther Wakanda Forever better do well. I mean, with the machine that has been driving Marvel Comics films for 14 years, it better do well. With a preceding movie that did make $1 billion. Granted, some people are not going to go see it because it's a Black Panther movie without the Black Panther, but that's going to be minimal. So yeah, I mean, but you're talking about comparing something that is a well-oiled machine that didn't have any brakes in it to something that is, in flux. You literally have Zaslav, Gunn, and Safran jumping into a moving car, pushing out the previous driver while still trying to stay on the road without crashing the car. Not a comparison. I don't think that they will see Black Adam as a flop because they and only they understand fully the circumstances that movie was released and made under. So, like I said, there's qualified people, and then there's the rest of it, everybody else. All right, not that Gunn in charge of DC Films control DC. You know what? I know you're trolling me, so I'm just gonna keep going. Todd is trolling. This is what Todd does. Do not let Todd Fair get your blood pressure up. This is what Todd Fair does. I've been on enough of Enosh's streams. As soon as I saw you guys that he was in there, I'm like, oh Lord, where are we going? All right, Todd Fair. Okay, Todd Fair is not a flop. I hope Wakanda Forever does not turn into a funeral. I want to go see a movie. That's what I've been saying. And I'm going to go see Black Panther Wakanda Forever on Tuesday and Wednesday because I'm taking a crowd. I'll probably see it 3 times next week because we're renting out a theater possibly for it. I love the first Black Panther. I think it's one of the great comic movies ever made, and as a person of color, it meant a lot more to me than a lot of other people. It was, and I know it meant a lot to young black men and little boys to see a main line. And I know people are going to throw Blade in there. Blade is not a main line character. Black Panther was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. He was one of the first handful of characters ever created in those first 4 years of Marvel. He is up there. He is a headline character. He is side by side with the Avengers. He's side by side with everybody else. Blade is not. All right, and it's not not the type of blockbuster. So Black Panther was the first one. All right, and it was very special. It meant a lot more than just a movie. And so going into the sequel, as I said last night, and I'll repeat what I said again, there are 1,000 different places to go to grieve. There are appropriate places to grieve and honor the dead. Memorials, funeral homes, mausoleums, all right, cemeteries, a statue. There's thousands of different more appropriate ways to honor that person on motion picture, a biopic, a documentary. There's so many places. A fictional story that is part of a much larger story is not. I don't go to the cinema for a funeral. I go to see a fictional story and to be taken out of that reality. I watch the news to see people memorialized. I go to funerals to pay my respects to the dead. I will leave flowers wherever you want me to leave to respect. I would never ever want a fictional story trajectory to be changed by a real life tragedy like that. As much as I can respect Chadwick Boseman's work, and just like his family said, they should have recasted him. People have to understand that it's not Chadwick Boseman Wakanda Forever. It's Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Chadwick Boseman was an asset, just like every actor that's in any of these movies, just like the director, just like the cameraman. He is an asset to tell the story. He is not the story. So when I go into this movie on Tuesday, I am going to have to do my best to fight the perception that that's what I'm going in to see. I hope that is not the case. But from everything I've seen, this movie is memorial to Chadwick Boseman. films are just not places to do that. I disagree with that. And that's not to mean any disrespect to him. I mean, I think I've expressed it as much. Movies are not memorials. All right. The cinema is not a funeral. So I'm hoping that this is not going to be the case, but I have a feeling that even though I will probably enjoy the movie for all of its brilliance and I'll probably get some Academy Awards, I hear Angela Bassett might get nominated for Best Actress. I don't want to leave Black Panther Wakanda Forever as feeling that I left somebody's wake. All right, that's just me. No, Todd. Listen. I don't know. Some of these guys are on Winning Notch. I as soon as I see you, like Marvel's a gold standard and all this. I'm used to it. Some people may not be. Buddy Love, do you think the flood scene in the fire on Wakanda Forever is sure you're taking Killmonger to the ancestral plane? Maybe. I've tried to keep myself away from as much of the TV spots and everything as possible, so I could probably, because this is one of those movies I want to go into with a fresh mind. So that's a very good possibility, buddy. Based on what though, Todd? Were you sitting in there determining what was needed from this movie? Were you sitting next to David Zaslav? Were you sitting next to the chief financial officer for Warner Brothers Discovery? Were you sitting with the people who's making the future plans of DC Films? Based on what? I mean, you telling me it's a flop and even me telling you otherwise means nothing. We're not the people. We don't know the parameters of the people who took over a failing company and a huge amount of debt in a movie that they had nothing to do with. What is success to them? All right. That's all that matters. I mean, somebody in a YouTube chat saying it was a flop, somebody, we don't know their math. We don't know what their expectations were. I hear a lot of people giving their expectations, but once again, their expectations are useless. My expectations for what Black Adam's box office was going to be is useless. I'm not paying anybody at Warner Brothers Discovery. No one in this chat is paying anybody from Warner Brothers Discovery. No one in this chat, no one in YouTube is directly paying the bills of Warner Brothers Discovery other than going to see the movie. But be honest with you, that money is like a drop in the pan of the amount of money that they were going to have to dig themselves from under because the previous regime left them with garbage. So how is anybody on YouTube determining what was needed for something to be a success or a flop? Once again, I already told you mathematically they didn't lose money. At $319 million currently, if it's a $300 million movie, it's basically a break even. But what criteria? I'm asking you, legit question. What criteria are you basing any movie is a flop? Unless you're sitting in their quarterly meetings, unless you're sitting, unless none of us really know exactly how much even was spent on the movie. When you look at these Wikipedia things, it gives you a range. Black Adam had a range between 165 and 200 million. That's a $30 million range. That means we're guessing. That means we're trying to determine the success of a company based on guesswork that we'll never know. They may never release those numbers to us. And if you're not a stockholder, you're probably not going to get any of those numbers. All right, Cisco E. I wouldn't be surprised if Gunn ends up writing an MLS script with more dramatic tones with Snyder and McQuarrie directing. Imagine if it winds up being Gunn who writes and directs. Could happen. It could happen. I'm not going to attach myself to that. I mean, because like I said, this era, because the previous regime is gone, I am opening my mind up to whatever these guys got to give me. And, I was truly opening my mind. I don't want to shackle. As much as I love that previous content, I don't want to shackle somebody. I don't think it's fair to put old chains on new people. I just don't want to do that. All right, saying a movie was a flop is not. No, I'm not saying it's toxic. I don't know if anybody in the chat said it. All I'm saying is, what do you or any other person on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere, on what basis do you qualify that information? I mean, like I said, if David Zaslav comes out and says, and as far as we're concerned, it was a success, his goals are the only ones that matter. All right. No YouTuber, no pundit, no Twitter head, no hack journalists. Nobody else's opinion matters about the success of the company other than the guy who has to talk to the stockholders. That's it. I'm not saying what you said is toxic. I just want to know why people think that they know what the goals are for any company. I don't care if it's a 7-Eleven all the way up to a major studio. You know what? You weren't on the inside. That door that closes on all of us in that corner office is the ultimate equalizer when it comes to what we know and what we don't know. Some people may know this, they may know that, they may have scoopers, they may have some people on the lower level inside, but when it comes to that top tier office and that big desk, they close the door and we're on the outside guessing. So all I'm saying is anybody, not just you, Todd, anybody who thinks they know the success. Same thing with Peacemaker. Walter Amada and everybody came out and said Peacemaker was great and this and that. No one gave us ratings for that. And I'm not saying that it was a flop, but the goal for the Hamada crew was to validate the decision making that they made from moving away from Snyder content. So they went around telling everybody it was great. Was it great? I don't know. I'm not an inside. I don't have, so I have to go with his word on it. But same thing. Unless you have inside information to refute what is or criteria of what is success, you're looking at dollars and cents. But you know what? That's like me saying I paid for a commercial about the Sci-Fi Center and I lost $500 when the cost of the commercial was $500. Getting Superman out there and getting the conversation and getting him back on the chessboard is the most important thing to me that came out of Black Adam. All right, and I think that was the most important thing for them. So that's just all I'm saying. All right, Cisco, Kinky Finger Cisco, that would be great because Zach Strong's suit is in script writing. All right. The Gunn tweet about getting to work and using Clark Kent on a typewriter. That's quite interesting. Like I said, it got me going, and it got me going in a positive direction. So I'm just really happy. I was surprised Black Adam was better than expected. Black Adam, listen, is a flawed movie, and it could have been better. It was horribly edited. The story was not that great. That kid was annoying, but he wasn't annoying, but his position was annoying. The enemy, Sabak, was worthless. Sabak was literally like having the ghost in Pac-Man. He was worthless. But there was enough stuff in there, and it moves at a pace that you don't. It's like when somebody's driving through a shitty neighborhood really fast, and you can't really slow down to see how bad the neighborhood is. But when you crawl back through there real slow, you're like, wow, there's an engine hanging, there's garbage everywhere. That's what Black Adam was. It moved well enough and moved to the points that mattered to where it didn't, none of the stuff at the time I was watching it really destroyed the movie. But I knew better. I knew it could have been a much better movie. It's a C-level movie with a character that nobody knew what the hell was. So to me, to be able to do what they did with that type of character, like I said, I would have not made Black Adam. I don't care how long The Rock wanted it made. I understand that. But I would have said, listen, Rock, I need to set my stage here so that when your movie comes out, people give it the benefit of the doubt. And that's another thing that does happen with Marvel movies, because even though I find half of them quite useless, other people don't. And they have a track record to where they can put out a mediocre movie and people will still give them the benefit of the doubt. See, Black Adam didn't necessarily have that, because what came before Black Adam? What's the ocean that Black Adam swims in? Black Adam had to carry all that weight on its own. And if it was a mediocre movie, if you would have had an excellent Superman movie that came before it, and you had an excellent Wonder Woman movie that's coming out a couple months afterwards, and you had 3 or 4 good movies that are happening, people will give you the benefit of the doubt. And that's the problem that Black Adam had. It was the home run. People were looking for Black Adam to be a home run. It's not. It's a base hitter. All right. Black Adam should have never had as much weight and expectation put on it. I don't care if The Rock was in it or not. It's Black Adam. Nobody knows who the hell that is. Like I always say, I went into a Shazam movie handing out T-shirts like this. All right. And what did people walk up to me every time I wear this damn shirt, no matter where I'm at? Dude, I love the Flash shirt. That is huge. When people don't have brand recognition to your IP, that is huge. That's why you don't do these middling movies without having the Pantheon in place. It's like having air support. In the Army, we don't go from point A to B without the air support, without artillery backing us. We don't move tanks without air cav, right? It's the same thing with movies. You don't move the little pieces on the board without having the big dogs around. And we have had no big dogs for so long now that Black Adam had to be the end all be all, and everybody's putting all these expectations on this movie. I'm like, where were you guys when we were trying to get these other movies made? So, but yeah, it was better than expected. I had fun with it. Patrick Child celebrating a movie not doing well is toxic. Okay, like I said, Todd is Todd, so he's not. Todd, yeah, like I said, welcome to my show, Todd. But people get used to Todd. He's not. He's just doing his thing. I'm feeling really excited in DC. Yes, that's the thing. I'm walking away with a lot of this. I just haven't had this feeling of the what's next feeling. Like I said, I put in the thumbnail. What's next? And when I say what's next, it's not a worry. What's next? It's a wow. I can't wait to see. I can't wake up and to see what Gunn is tweeting about. I can't wait to see him leaving cryptic tweets to get me excited. I can't wait. It's gonna be fun. So, all right. So, Michelle, my husband wants to go see Black Panther movie, but he's a little afraid because the rumors of racial tension. My husband and I are both Irish. Don't listen to that. There's not. Listen, I've been hearing that stuff go around. Go see that movie. If you want to go see that movie, go see that movie. I've heard some stupid stuff going around. There's not going to be. Listen, when I went to go see Black Panther the first time around, it was in what 2018, 2019. Obviously, not getting into politics, we were where we were at politically, and people wait to go see Black Adam. We were just fine. We sat in harmony and we watched a good movie. All right, we're not going. I don't think it's going to be a problem. To be honest with you, I mean, my movies bring us together. Black Panther came out in a very volatile time for Black America and white America. But guess what? We sat in that damn movie theater and we drove that movie up to one, over what a billion and two. Which is exactly what we're going to do this time. I don't think you have to worry about a racial tension to go to a movie. And it's unfortunate that people are spreading that stuff because some people might sit home and even though I don't like the way some of the decisions that are being made in the movie, it's still going to be a beautiful movie that you probably want to see on the big screen. Don't let people take you out of that fun. That's my advice. Oh, you're responding to Patrick's. My husband grew up in comic. Hey, listen, here's the thing though. Majority of the people who are going to see comic movies have never even picked up a comic. Well, and probably will never pick up a comic. I meet people every day that didn't know certain movies were comic. I met somebody the other day that didn't even know Invincible was a comic book. Or that The Boys was based on a comic book. So the vast majority of people who enjoy these movies have not engaged in comic books ever. So there we go. Yeah, I mean, if you have honest criticisms about the movie, that's fine. I mean, I had criticisms about the movie, but all my only thing is like when we get into it was a flop. This is terrible for DC. When we're so far outside of the offices, we're not even. I'm not even going to get past security in Warner Brothers Discovery. We are so far away from where the actual information is being and decisions are being made that it's just silly sometimes when I see people who are not qualified and should know better trying to spread a narrative that they can't qualify. They can't. They will never know that stuff. All right. Let's see. Shields. He's that's RJ. No, I'm just kidding. But he prefers Marvel films, and hey, go fine. I like I said, just over half of Marvel's movies. I enjoy myself. I enjoy the TV shows, but DC, the way DC has always lays out their stories in my entire childhood. I'm not talking about the animated stuff. I'm talking about the actual live action content is always, and even the comic books has always aligned itself with my sensibilities and what I want out of stories. And so that's why I'm a DC guy. It's okay being a Marvel shield and being a Marvel guy, be what you are. He gets asked these questions everywhere he goes. It's hilarious. All right, he's trolling you guys. He is. That's what Todd does. He's a troll. He's a friendly troll, though. There are some trolls that come in just to destroy your chat. Todd's just having fun, and I don't mind that. He's not. No, dude. We've been in streams where MCU shields go override, and it's hilarious. All right, Black Adam was a Hamada production. New WD management won't trip with Black Adam. His character and JSA are just introduction to him. Yeah, a much more bigger guy. And the cool thing about it, like I said, I know there wasn't enough JSA in there for some people, but you got enough to want more. And like I said, what I really do encourage fans to do is stop thinking what's just immediately within your view, what's in front of you, or what's in the small front or backyard that you've been in. Think wider scope. Think 10, 20 steps ahead, because that's what they're doing. If you want to try to interpret what James Gunn and Peter Safran are doing, you can't think in the immediate sense. You have to think beyond that, because that's how they're thinking. You can't say that, well, this is harmful, this is bad, this is going to hurt. You can't think about that in the immediate sense, because you have to think about it in the long term. And for them, when they respond to box office and everything else, they have to stick to that long-term plan, because people are going to react to the immediate, and it's not always going to be positive. See, the previous regime couldn't do that. They were reactionary. But these guys sound like they are going to put their plan in place, and Zaslav is going to stand behind them, and then they in turn are going to stand behind their creators. That didn't happen before, and that's where all this mess came from. All right, Kiki. I didn't know. I didn't grow up here yet. I think you grew up in Ireland, right? Let's see. All right, let's see. I just want to make sure I get a little bit of everybody. Fourth, what's up, man? Dude, there you go with that avatar again. I hate that avatar. I wish I could just block it out. I hate that. You know what? When I send you your stuff, I'm gonna make sure I send you. I'm gonna bribe you to never use this avatar again. Hate that avatar. All right, at Marcus, it's why the success of the MCU isn't all good. It warps so many people's perception of what. Okay, I thank you for bringing that up, Patrick, because here's the thing about the Marvel comic universe. Everything that Marvel has done has been great for them. It's been great for their customer. It's been great for their creators. It's great for the story that they're telling and the content that they're putting out. It has been perfect for them. All right. But that doesn't mean everything needs to be done that way. And because of the success of Marvel, it has poisoned the well for other people that want to do things a different way. And the previous regimes look at that. They look at that. They wouldn't let somebody come in and establish a DC brand. They wanted the Marvel money. They wanted the Marvel success, even though we're not common customers all the time. Even if they're not a comic book fan, people will gravitate to what DC's put out simply because they might watch other movies that are much more aligned with the kind of stories that DC tells. So what DC needed to do is come in and admire what they were doing over there, admire the structure and the success, but they needed to be DC. And that was something that they never got their foot on. Even while they had Zack Snyder producing DC type content and we had other people doing DC type stuff, the people that were supposed to back them never had a clear concept of what DC was. They were driving a car at 1,000 miles an hour looking at somebody else's vehicle instead of keeping their eyes on their own road. And that's why you haven't had the cohesiveness. And I don't blame Marvel. I blame dumb execs that could not recognize that they needed to do things their way. You can admire the structure. You can even copy some of the structure. But when it comes to the way you handle your IPs that have been around for 80 years and mean a lot more to people than certain Marvel IPs. I mean, you have IPs that have had multiple movies behind them before you got a hold of them, whereas most of your Marvel IPs did not. You have to understand where you're at and the ground you're standing on. And the Hamada just couldn't do that. Emmerich could not do that. Ishihara could not do that. Johns should have been able to do it, but he's not a filmmaker. So we finally have people in place now that have worked for both. I mean, Gunn has worked for both, but I think Gunn has a better understanding of what it means to be DC. You know, I could 6 months from now, I could be wrong and we could be complaining about him. But right now we're in a spot now where we can just have a sense of wonder about DC, about somebody who's, because one thing about James Gunn's DC stuff, it is nothing. It's like nothing I've seen in Marvel. Love or hate the Suicide Squad, there's nothing in Marvel like that. Love or hate Peacemaker, there's nothing in Marvel like that. And when you look at it, the movies and type of things that he makes, there's nothing like what he does. So I think if there's anybody that's going to embrace the DC brand and what it means to be the DC brand, I think it's him. So we're at a good place. I keep saying we're in a good place, but I really believe we are. All right. Let's see. Yeah, Thursday at 4 a.m. Like I said, it's gonna be fun. Like I said, I just hope I'm not going to a funeral. All right. Well, and please watch the Malachi Black promo that came out today. It's really beautiful. What's this today? Is it on Is it on their YouTube page or on their website? I'll probably on their Instagram. I'll check it out. When will Black Adam start? Okay, I'm gonna making money. How much does it need to make? Like I said before, so I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just giving you the numbers, the production numbers that are public, that are speculated at $300 million total with the budget. We don't know because, like everything I've seen, nobody knows the exact budget because they don't give you those exact numbers. But people are guessing somewhere between 165 and 200 million. So let's say at high end it's 200 million, and then 100 million for the production budget right there. So right there you're at 300. So technically, if you're talking about flat break even, they've already done it by 19 million, but there are other percentages involved. There's percentages that the movie theater gets and all that. So you're probably realistically looking at about 400 and 450 million to break even. And a lot of people are saying that they would need to make more to make a profit, roughly around that. But that's just me guessing. We don't know. But it's not just about dollars and cents, though, because Warner Brothers Discovery and Zaslav know that they are going to have to bleed out a little bit to get to where they want to. They're going to they're going to have to build a bridge to fans now and ones that have had to endure this previous project, and it's going to be expensive. Black Adam, not Black Adam, Shazam. Shazam's another movie. The budget is a lot lower than Black Adam, but it's going to increase from the 90 million that it cost them before. And they're probably going to spend another 100 million on that. But they're probably having no expectation that that's going to do astronomical money, even with the cameos in it, for simpler because it's going to take longer than that to polish up a brand that has been tarnished for this long. So how much it needs to make, in my opinion, and my guess, I would say in the 400 to 450 million, just to make, just to get over, paying out percentages and all that. Right now it's at 319. And you also have to realize that, okay, if it doesn't make it there, it has physical media and it has day and day release as far as stuff like that. But even if it stays at 319 million right now, it's not their movie. It's not like they can. What is going to be the response for people who are saying that, well, Black Adam's a flop and this and that? What do you think that Zazov's response is going to be? What can he do? He had zero control of how much that movie made, so they can write that off. And as far as The Rock's viability as a star, once again, there's a lot of stuff about Black Adam that I'm pretty sure, promotional wise, that the current regime were probably done better. We probably would have had better trailers. We probably would have started the ad campaign a lot sooner. We probably would have started doing other things to connect to Black Adam to make it a little bit more viable. This previous regime really let Black Adam down, and he probably would have had a better content movie as well. But as far as start making money goes, without knowing the exact money that was spent, and remember that money's already gone too because that money was already spent before Zaslav took over. So when he assumed the whole company and all of its debt, that was assumed along with it. So I don't know, man. I'm guessing in the four-ish. If under normal circumstances, 400 to 450 would have been right around, where they start making a profit. And then in the next couple hundred million, under normal circumstances, a movie like this would come out under the right circumstances, under the right ad campaign, with a better script, with a whole bunch of stuff. You wouldn't have to fought for the Superman cameo, the ad at the last minute. Under better management, he would have probably been in throughout the movie. And now you're talking about a $600, $700, $800 million movie under the right circumstances. So it's really hard to say, without having exact numbers. But I'm guessing around the 400 million. If it gets a China release, rumors saying it doesn't, but nobody, I haven't seen anything hard concrete saying that. I heard that November 11th. If it goes into China and does rock numbers or anywhere near rock numbers, because you got COVID going on there, but at the same time, just like Blade Runner 2049, Blade Runner 2049 cost him 200 million to do, and they did 60 million ad campaign. The movie did 268, so it was barely break even, but they sold 22 million in Blu-ray and DVDs. They sold another couple, another 15 or so million on digital on Vudu. So there are other ways to to make your money back when it comes to these movies. The long term is how many times have you turned on TNT or TBS or another station and seen one of these movies playing? They can also make their money back in ad revenue too. So there's a lot of ways to back in your money. You want to do it outright, but once again, they inherited the movie. So there you go. Azteca 04. Come on now. All right. Blade saved Marvel from bankruptcy. Love the first two films. Also, remember Wesley Snipes was trying to get Black Panther on the big screen before he was cast as Blade in the early 90s. All right. People say this about Blade saved Marvel from bankruptcy. No, it didn't. You know what saved Marvel from bankruptcy? Selling Spider-Man and X-Men to Sony and Fox. That's the cast that kept them afloat. Blade, the money that Blade made was nowhere near enough to keep them from going bankruptcy. What kept Marvel from going bankrupt was the sale of X-Men, Fantastic Four, and to Fox, and then mainly Spider-Man, because remember Spider-Man came out right after they made that sale and made a lot of money, and they got percentages from that. So it was, in my opinion, it was the sale of those IPs, because remember, even with Blade, Marvel was headed for bankruptcy even as Blade was getting making money. So I don't like I said, Blade was a good movie, but it wasn't Black Panther level. But like I said, Blade may have helped a little bit, but it was those sales of those major IPs, in my opinion, that kept Marvel afloat. Because I was a store owner. We didn't know how long we were going to continue to get Marvel books for a while at the time. All right, what amount should Black Adam reach to be considered making money? Okay, so that's basically your question before. So yeah, um, normal circumstances, 450 million would be it, because you're 319 plus, your percentage and everything else, and then from the 450 mark, you would start making your good profit. That means you're free and clear profit, your first dollar profit. So, but like I said, under normal circumstances, that would put the movie successfully at around 680 to 700 million dollars under normal circumstances. But as we have talked ad nauseum, these are not normal circumstances. So success, as far as the Zaslav administration is going to be, how can we salvage a movie that we didn't even greenlight or push forward? So making money, that's where I would guess. Where that money comes from now is the only thing that's going to be in dispute. Are they going to get it in the box office? With Black Panther coming out next week, a lot of people figure that that's going to be the number one movie, and that Black Adam is going to get shut out. Does it get a China release? How bad does COVID affect the China release? And the next is physical media. Now, physical media, when it comes to DC, does pretty well. DC physical media sells out in most of the places that I'm at. So that money could come back through there. Also, like I mentioned before, whenever you're gonna see Black Adam on NBA TV or on TNT or wrestling and everything else, and that means guys like us are going to be laying down some big bucks to have our commercials running through those. So the company gets that too. So like I said, without knowing the parameters of the making money part, because I don't know exactly how much was spent, that's my guess. I could be 100% wrong, because once again, I'm not on the inside. I think Coogler is a pretty smart guy. I don't think most of the film will have a summer tone. I hope so, but from what I've seen, it looks like it is the tone, but I hope I'm wrong. Because like I said, the 3-hour movie. I think BP2 will be more of a celebration. Funerals and wakes are celebrations of life, though. So it's a celebration of a passing, which a passing I don't think should be being depicted in a movie, in response to the real person dying. It is a fictional movie. All right. So I hope I answered your question, by the way. Please calls me SK. Like I said, I don't know the parameters of what Zaslav considers a success, because I don't know exactly how much was spent on the money. I don't know what their expectations are, given the circumstances of the movie. So, and plus, I don't know how much it's going to make on the ancillary market. So, all right. I love Chadwick Boseman, but the whole notion of how tragic his passing, he didn't tell Marvel he was battling leaving MCU in a bad place. They should have recast it. Hey, you know what? I know people who fought cancer all the way up to the last moment. And I've had Jesus last year. It's been tough. I've lost people who I didn't know were sick, and then they were gone, or they were down in their last weeks, because they didn't want people pitying them. They didn't want to uproot people's lives to, because and carry that weight. And a lot of cancer patients always, a lot of them think they're going to beat it. Which is the attitude everybody should always have, that you're going to beat this thing. And I think, down to their last moments, he thought, that he was going to beat it. He was acting, he was doing his thing up to the point he couldn't. I don't think he left him cancer left the MCU in a bad place. I don't think Chadwick did. But yes, they should have recasted. But I understand where you're coming from, William. The Black Panther is the first African superhero to get a leading role amongst. But yeah, I mean, and that's why when people, they bring up Static Shock and all that, it's just, listen, I regard that well. But and thinking, somebody can it be in a separate universe? No. If you're going to bring a black mainline superhero to the forefront, bring him to the forefront. Put him right next to Thor. Put him right next to Captain America. Put him right next to every one of your main characters, because that's the equality that we've been looking for a long time. All right. How you doing, Daniel? Probably missed you already talking about it, but what did you interpret James Gunn's tweets of definitive no regarding the Air Cut being released? I didn't see it as definitive no. I just don't think it's a priority right now, nor should it be. I'm sorry. I know I'm going to get a lot of Air Cut hate, but it's just not a priority. It's just not a priority with him trying to go forward and and rebuild this universe into something respectful. That's just not a priority. And a lot of the stuff that the people want restored and all this is just not a priority right now. Um, and what he's basically saying, the way I interpret it, is we're working on stuff. We hear you. Where we can, we'll fit it in. But give us some time. And there's no guarantee that any of us are going to get exactly what we want. But you know what? If I got two guys working at it, if I get two guys that are can communicating with me, I'm okay. I there's a good chance I might not get a resolution to the stuff I want. I think it would be a poor decision not to. But you know what? Here's the thing. And back in 2017, when they had scrapped Zack Snyder stuff, if they would have came in with a plan that blew my socks off, I'm like, holy cow, you guys are going to really do this on screen? You guys can really do this on screen? This is happening? If they would have came in with plan B, and plan B was like, wow, the general audience would have overwhelmed us Snyder Bros. The Snyder Bros would have been like, might not have said it out loud, but we're going to see that. That shit looks good. They didn't do that. All right. So now we have a crew that's coming in. So if you're not going to give me the story that I've been waiting for, the onus is on you to give me something really fucking good. All right. When he says the greatest story, the biggest story ever told, I'm going to hold him to that, because look what we've had. The last guys moved aside a really, really good story that we all fell in love with. Most of us fell in love with, and supplanted it with nothing. So if you're coming in, you're not going to give me exactly what I want. Fine. What you got better blow my ears backwards. All right. And I'm willing to give them that time to get to that point. So Air Cut and all this other stuff, that's somebody else's error, guys. If we wait long enough, maybe they can fold it into theirs, because we're dealing with the same characters and we're not doing the reboot. Maybe just patience and common sense, I think, All right. What you guys don't know is Black Panther 1 was being pushed by major South African political parties and 3 celebs all over the country. It was screened at the National Building. Oh, dude. Oh, man. Listen. All right. So when we screened, because we promoted Black Adam back when it came out, right? When I do these screenings, no matter how many people I have, 50 people or 150 people, sometimes we've had 400. We've had a lot of people because we hand out tickets. We do all kinds of stuff, right? Percentage of black folks that are going to see these movies, especially superhero movies, because I'm there, it's me and maybe 5 or 6% of the overall audience. When we did Black Panther, 47% of the audience was people of color. And they weren't just showing up. They were wearing the garb. I had African nationals that were here on tourist visas doing other stuff, coming in dressed up in the ceremony. There were people doing the ceremonial dances in the lobby, and I'm not kidding you. You can Google and YouTube that stuff. It was a sense of pride. Not just for Black Americans, all of us around the world. These movies are seen all around the world. All right. And nowhere in the world was any black mainline character ever put on the level that Black Panther was. It was a special moment. It was truly a special moment to see everybody of color feeling that finally they had been included into this Marvel universe or comic book movie universe in general. So yeah, I believe you, man. Some of the stuff I saw. If it's emblematic of what you saw, yeah, it was a special time. You got the feeling that this wasn't just another superhero movie. All right, this was a breakthrough for us. Buddy Love, I think Todd basing Black Adam flop. Think Todd is basing the Black Adam flop from years of listening to YouTubers, mathematics, sharing revenue. Yeah, yeah, and that's like I said, a lot of that, even the best of people are doing guesswork. But one thing, even if those guesses are usually right on, this is a very unique situation. We have a company that inherited these movies, not just Black Adam, but the next 3 or 4 movies are movies that are in the can that they had nothing to do with. So they're going to judge wins and losses and successes a lot differently if it were their movies that they had control of from beginning to end, because there's no post-mortem, there's no autopsy to do. What do you do if Black Panther didn't meet previous movies like its expectation? What can you do? All you can do is say, I think we should change this, and this. Oh, wait a minute, we are changing this, and this because we just changed those people out. So we got to look at it with all things considered. So Wakanda Forever is definitely going to not being celebrated like Black Panther 2 and something. Yeah, I hate to say this, and I hope this is not true. It's a Black Panther movie. The Black Panther. There's a Black Panther in there. Not the same, and I'm trying to fight this because I want to keep my mind open, but I think a lot of other people are not gonna necessarily give it that. Some people, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see for the people that it affected in the most positive light if they come back for this movie, knowing that the Black Panther is dead, is not there. So it is what it is. James Gunn tweeted out release to Airco. I hope he's ready for all this. I think James Gunn, coming from the land of trauma, and our buddy Lloyd Kaufman, has a lot thicker skin than a lot of other people who are going to ever be in his position. I think he'll be all right. Thank you. I'm glad I have a viewer and a friend like you, Michelle, and that goes for all of you guys. I felt compelled to get on here to talk about this situation because I felt compelled that I know what you guys have heard all day about it, and I felt compelled and responsible to give you a different take on it that is based in something different than what you'd be hearing for the day, the rest of the day. So thank you, Michelle. Patrick Todd's fucking embarrassing as a black man. I know there are African Americans that feel only black people should see and celebrate Wakanda. Someone is going to have to. I know I've seen the tweets and I've seen the stuff in the video and all that. Who's coming up with this? Why would you want a black-driven movie? I want everybody to see that movie. If I want this to be black cinema at its best and us on the highest and most regal, we're royalty in that movie. We're fighting. We look good. We look powerful. I want everybody to see that movie. Black people are going to feel differently about the movie because it's a representation of us. But white people, green people, everybody, go see these movies when they come out. We want you with us. I don't want a separate form of entertainment that is just for black people. All right, I do not live in a separate country. Black folks, like I always say, we've been here since there was a country, since before it was named the United States. We were here. All right, we've been here to all of this. We are interwoven in the fact we go see the same movies you do. We want you to go see the same movies we do. Now, will you relate differently to a black romantic comedy sometimes? Maybe not, but you'll still go and you'll go laugh. White people laughed at Eddie Murphy. White people laughed at Chappelle. White people go see him. So why would white people not be welcome to go see this movie? I want to make that cheddar too, by the way, but still, I want you in on our experience because before I leave this planet, I want our experiences to be as relatable as we can possibly be. And movies like this help. All right. I will never live and see life through the eyes of a white man and vice versa. But it doesn't mean we can't share a theater together. That is ridiculous. So I agree with you, Patrick. That is embarrassing. All right, gonna get William a shirt that says "I love DC animated films," and I will get a bird, and I will put it at the bottom of bird. Uh, some of the animated films are a little bit more serious. The animation that I have an issue with is the cartoon series. Batman the animated. I have no use for Batman the animated series. None. I have no use for X-Men '90s series. None. All right, those and I've already gone into in depth of why I have zero use for those. The um the movies are a lot of the movies are adapted from some of the hardcore content that I grew up reading, so I'm okay with some of those. Run, Michelle. I'm working on a line of books inspired by my daughter and on unborn son, based on the Nordic and Irish. Cool. I just met some people from Norway today at my store. They came through. Being pregnant. Okay. I thought you were giving birth on the 17th this month. So, congratulations on your growing family. Hunter Iggy. First time you didn't put my first and last name, whatever you're about to ask me. What other A, B, and D T characters would you like to see in the DTU? I would like to see DCU, the Ray. Well, the Ray is good. Some lesser Green Lanterns are good. Maxwell Lord is not in mine. I guess I for cinema. Um, hmm. Ice is one of those ones from Justice League. Um, Scarlet, the Fox, the one that was in the Justice League Europe. Captain Atom. I mean, there's a couple of characters in there that I could see on there. I mean, hell, seeing Atom Smasher was something different. Um, wow, there's a lot. That's a good question. I could actually come up with a. You know what? We might do a stream on that question, Hunter Iggy. There you go, William Powell. What is your thoughts on Disney and Marvel Studio One? Okay, so we talked about this last night. If there, I don't have a problem with it. Obviously, the Holocaust and World War II it is still very relevant. But when you're trying to tell a modern story to relate to modern audiences, I don't know if Magneto, who would be literally 100 years old at this point, even when he was de-aged, would still be. We fought other wars and we fought other conflicts and we've been a part of other internal strife and conflicts that I think they would need to update the character. So if they did change, and we were talking about it last night, if we went with a Black Professor X and a Black Magneto, and I called him Black Nito, then you as being black, what Magneto was trying to do, it wasn't just him being a villain. He basically was trying to protect mutant kind from being persecuted. And basically, since you had those two characters that were based on Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, it wouldn't be that hard to juxtapose their circumstances back from what they were in the comic. So, we have African continents and places like that to where, I could see Magneto saying, "Hey, I come be a part of this continent," and then militarizing them. And now we have a point where black people from all over the world have to decide whether they want to live where they're secondhand citizens in some cases, or do they want to come be kings with him, and how that moral divide would affect people that are like patriots like myself, who, even though we've had an experience in America that hasn't been the best at side times, I am still a hopeless optimist when it comes to the black experience in America. So I would be the Professor X point of view, but you have other people who have black experiences different in each region of the world. I can't tell a guy who's growing up in the South impoverished how to be black, and how to be, how to express his African Americanism any more than he can tell me, a black person who's always lived in the city and had different circumstances. So it would be cool if they did that, if they made them black, and you had to look at these two things, the struggle from two different points of view, just like they did when it was just mutants. But I think it would be a good way to update things. It would be a good way to make the story more relatable in 2022, instead of trying to tell a story that's really rooted in the 40s and generations upon generations old. It just doesn't fit the modern story that they're trying to tell. So I have no problem with them, as long as as long as it fits the story. Like if you're telling a story like I just told you, then yeah, you'd have to. But if you kept him with the Jewish background and the Holocaust survivor, obviously he would have to be, he would have to look like somebody who would be a Jewish person from that era in that part of the world. But if it doesn't matter to the story, then I'm okay when they do race swapping. As long as if that's like Jim Gordon being black, the story of Jim Gordon in the Batman isn't about him being black and in the police force. And if it was about racial corruption, then obviously it would be a different story. But it's not. So his color is not relevant to the character he's playing. Once you adjust that backstory. Hey Vince, how you doing? E-Man from Recast T'Challa movement shared his thoughts, and he was extremely melancholy about Black Panther 2. Bad time. Yeah, I saw that, but understand where he's coming from too. I mean, like I said, I listen. I don't want to go. I'm going to these movies to be entertained. I go other places to pay respect to the dead. All right, it's just that's just me. Dennis Dante Smith would loved Snipes' take on Black Panther. Think it would have been reminiscent of the early Marvel Knights comic book runs in the late '90s. Talk about underrated. The thing about it though is I don't know. I don't know. It's just tough because I was around in the '90s, but I'm wondering if these movies would be accepted the way they are now. Who knows? All right, Geek Studios, only Geek TV. Hey, first time I've seen you here, at least on my show. How you doing? Margot E. Zazoff said that they needed to find a way to monetize unpublished stock. The Snyder Cut needed 70 million. The Air Cut doesn't. How many versions of Blade Runner came out? Seven. Seven things of Blade Runner. So I guess you're making a argument for doing an Air Cut. It's not just about money. It's where it fits in the pantheon of what you're doing going forward. Does it fit with the story going forward? You could justify Zack Snyder's Justice League did because it's the basis of going forward. David Ayer's cut was never the basis of anything going forward unless you're going to go forward with Justice League 2. And we don't know if we're ever going to get that. And there's just no business reason to do it. And content-wise, there's even less of one. With Blade Runner, you're talking about a historical movie that, as it came along, was revered by pretty much all of science fiction. Even though it bombed in 1982, Blade Runner is shown in film schools. All right. Blade Runner is become a legendary movie. So when you're talking about, and we didn't have any universe connected to Blade Runner at the time. You're just releasing. It's just like Godfather releasing the Godfather trilogy. The Godfather trilogy is not connected to potentially 6, 7, 8, 9 movies. So you're not derailing a story to try to fit in, the Godfather or Blade Runner. I mean, Blade Runner sequel came out, but once again, that was 35 years later. All those cuts that you just mentioned were released in the interim. So there was a business reason to do those. But once again, none of these things that you mentioned are Blade Runner was not part of a universe that is moving forward in a different direction. So like I said, I guess that's the case you're trying to make. If I'm making me wrong, all right, I'm black and I've never had any interest for shows like BMF, Power X. I feel bad about that because I'm all about inclusion. I hope Wakanda Forever doesn't feel like that type of production. No, I mean I don't think it is because Black Panther wasn't. You know, Black Panther wasn't. So I'm going to trust him that he's making a movie for everybody, even though it's centered on guys that look like you and me. You know, all right, guys, that's gonna be it for tonight. This was just gonna be a really quick stream. I wanted to address the what I thought his tweets meant, what I think they mean going forward. I think we should all just sit back and enjoy this ride. I think that we should sit back and enjoy this ride. Let go of our previous desires, no matter how much they meant with us, because listen, the Snyder Cut meant a lot to people. We got that. We have all the people that play these characters there. The pieces are on the chessboard. Let the chess players play the game, and don't put the weight of 2017 and don't put the weight of the previous era on these guys. I think if we do that, I think they see the product, they see where it fits. Let these guys lay out their own roadmap, and then allow them to plug in the stuff that we like where it fits. And just be happy that we have people with a plan now. So that is all I got, guys. Thank you all once again for showing up on an impromptu screen. a late night stream, early morning Sunday. It always amazes me if I get more than two people to listen to me talk, especially this late. So thank you all for being more than those two people. Thank you for your questions and your comments. They made the show, whether we agreed or not, they made the show better, and they gave us something more than just me running my mouth. So thank you very much, and I will see you guys when I see you.